If you ask anyone on Brookside Lane what they remember most about Michael Hawthorne, they'll all tell you the same thing. He was the kindest man on the block. He mowed lawns for elderly neighbors, fixed people's mailboxes after storms, baked cookies for block parties, and could often be seen walking his golden retriever at sunrise. He had a soft voice, a polite smile, and a habit of waving at every passing car. And yet, behind the wallpapered walls of his charming two-story home, in a locked basement room nobody ever entered, police would eventually uncover one of the most disturbing hidden lives the town of Everdale had ever seen. This is the story of the man everyone trusted, and the man nobody really knew. It begins with a single phone call, and a closet that should have been empty. Michael Hawthorne moved to Everdale in 2012. A man in his mid-40s, recently widowed, seeking a quiet place to start over. Or at least that's what he told the real estate agent. He bought the yellow house at the end of Brookside Lane, a calm, sunlit street where nothing dramatic ever happened. People said he seemed lonely but gentle. A decent man. Someone who deserved a fresh start. He found a job quickly, part-time maintenance technician at the Everdale Community Center. Nothing glamorous, but very fitting for someone who enjoyed fixing things. He always showed up early, stayed late, and never complained. Kids in the neighborhood called him Mr. Mike, and their parents considered him safe enough to watch them while they played outside. For years, Michael built a reputation as the ideal neighbor. The man you call when your pipe bursts. The man who volunteers to grill at the summer fair. The man who buys extra pumpkins so the kids carving at the community center never run out. A man who blends in perfectly, but people who blend in too perfectly often do so for a reason. The first crack in the facade happened on a cold evening in February 2019. Michael didn't show up to work. He didn't call, didn't text. His supervisor tried to reach him, then assumed he'd gotten sick. But when he didn't return the next day, and his dog was seen wandering loose in the yard, neighbors grew worried. One of them, an elderly woman named Nancy Rhodes, walked up to his house. She rang the bell, knocked on the door, called out his name. Nothing. But she heard something strange, a faint buzzing sound, rhythmic, mechanical, coming from inside the house. She called the police for a welfare check. Officers arrived at 7:43 p.m. They knocked, waited, then entered through the back door, which was unlocked. The house was tidy, warm, quiet. A kettle sat cold on the stove. His phone was charging by the couch. Everything looked normal, until one of the officers opened the hallway closet. Inside, instead of coats and boots, they found a small monitor, still turned on, showing a live feed from a security camera aimed at someone's backyard. Not Michael's. Not anyone on Brookside Lane. A stranger's backyard. A stranger's home. A family of 4 captured on a screen inside his closet. The officers froze. This was no welfare check anymore. This was the beginning of an investigation that would unravel Michael's entire second life. Over the next hour, police searched the rest of the house. What they found raised more questions than answers. There were dozens of notebooks, pages filled with color-coded schedules of families around the neighborhood. When they left for work, when their lights turned off, when the kids walked home from school. There were maps pinned inside drawers, detailed hand-drawn layouts of houses on different streets. Notes about window locks, blind spots, dog walking times. There were flash drives with encrypted files hidden behind kitchen cabinets, and a folder labeled simply Access, containing a collection of keys, some duplicated, some obviously copied from molds. But the strangest discovery came when officers found a door behind a false wall panel in the laundry room. A door with a heavy metal bolt. A door with no knob on the inside. Behind it was the basement room. The basement wasn't large, but it was meticulously organized. A workbench with tools arranged in perfect rows. Shelves of small containers labeled with dates and initials. A wall covered in pinned photographs, street corners, backyards, windows, license plates. And on a large corkboard at the center of the room was a timeline. 8 years long. The timeline had 2 rows. Row 1, normal life. Appointments, birthdays, community events. Row 2, observations, times, locations, descriptions. Michael had watched dozens of people, quietly, methodically, for years, and it didn't stop there. Behind a locked cabinet, police found items that had been reported missing around Everdale for years. Jewelry, wallets, small heirlooms, even baby shoes from a nursery. Some items belonged to people who had moved away. Some belonged to people who lived just blocks from him. Some belonged to people who had never realized anything was missing. Michael Hawthorne had two lives: the friendly neighbor, and the man who spent his nights watching others without ever being seen. But even then, officers still didn't know the worst of it. That came when digital forensics broke into the encrypted files. When detectives accessed the flash drives, they found hundreds of hours of footage from hidden cameras. Cameras placed inside homes, sheds, garages. Cameras wired through vents, window frames, and even birdhouses. Some footage showed families eating dinner. Some showed bedrooms. Some showed empty rooms for hours. Some showed people crying. One showed a teenage boy sitting alone on the floor, clearly knowing someone was watching him, but not knowing who. Michael had been inside dozens of homes. Quietly, carefully, and he always left without a trace. The police spent weeks trying to figure out how he did it. But one detail stood out in nearly every video. He was always wearing gloves, always covering his shoes, always turning cameras toward corners where motion wouldn't trigger alarms. This wasn't a thief. This wasn't a voyeur. This was someone who studied people like puzzles, mapping every routine, every weakness, every habit. Yet strangely, none of the videos showed him harming anyone. Not once. So what was his end goal? Investigators didn't know. Not yet. The cabin was the last confirmed trace of Michael Hawthorne. To this day, nobody knows where he went, or if he ever stopped watching people. Some investigators believe he fled to another state and started the same routine under a new name. Some believe he's hiding in another small town, living another quiet, perfect life, helpful, friendly, harmless on the surface. Others believe he never left Everdale at all, that he's living in the woods, slipping into town at night to observe the same families he watched for so many years. Because one detail from his notes still puzzles detectives. Check the places no one ever notices. Was he referring to the cabin? To the blind spots in people's routines? Or to himself, hidden in plain sight, somewhere people walk past without thinking twice? The truth is simple and terrifying. A man who lived a double life for 8 years without a single neighbor suspecting him is a man capable of hiding forever. And the people of Everdale still lock their doors early, still install new cameras, still draw curtains they never used to close. Because sometimes the scariest criminals aren't the ones who attack. They're the ones who watch, patiently, quietly, from the places you never check.